So today we're going to be doing air masses, going over air masses. So what is an air mass? An air mass is an extremely large body of air in the troposphere with similar characteristics of temperature, moisture, and pressure. So they all combine together. Air masses can cover hundreds of thousands of square miles. And you can see from this picture, like, look at that. That's a lot of area that CA covers, or the MP covers, or the CP covers. Covers a lot of miles, a lot of square miles. That one doesn't look like a lot, but look at this. This huge amount. So how do they develop? Well, first off, they form when large bodies of air sit over particular parts of Earth's surface for a period of time. And because they're sitting over it, they acquire similar characteristics of that surface. Now we have two types of surfaces. And it gives both temperature and moisture. Those surfaces, that's the characteristics that they pick up. And you have these things called air mass source regions, like the source of where all of this is coming from, the geographic areas where the air masses form. So the air masses form over a geological area, and it absorbs characteristics of temperature and moisture from those areas. So for instance, you have this right here. Well, what is that? Well, what determines the level of moisture in the air mass? First, you're looking at this. This looks pretty dusty, kind of dry. It's continental. So anywhere where there's a continent, it is going to be dry. That means the air mass forms over land, and it is dry. It is symbolized by a lowercase c. Continental, lowercase c. Very important what's upper or lower case. And so you have a C. Well, what's this down here? You're like, oh, it's water. Well, it's actually called maritime. I don't know if you have ever heard of, like, going over, if you're in the sea, it's called maritime time. This forms over water. This is the seas. This is the ocean. Maritime. It is wet. Wonder why? You know, because it's over water. Water is wet. Please don't get into me about that. But for right now, let's just say water is wet. So if little c is continental, what do you think maritime is going to be? Well, it's going to be signified by a lowercase m. So lowercase m, maritime, water. If you flip that m upside down, it's a W, water. C, continental, it's definitely dry. All right, so looking at this again. What determines the temperature? So we just looked at what determines the moisture level. Now let's look at the temperature. Well, look at this A right here. A is Arctic. It forms over ice-covered Arctic regions during the winter months. It is very, very, very cold and dry. Dry because it forms over the continent. Very, very cold because it's up at the poles. Very, very, very cold at the Arctic, symbolized by a capital A. So you have the Arctic at this size and the Antarctic at the bottom. Both of those would be considered Arctic. Then you have polar regions. Those are in the upper latitudes, the higher latitudes, and this is symbolized by a P as in polar. A, Arctic, P, polar. All right, well, what does this T stand for? Well, that's tropical. That's the lower latitudes, right near the equator, and it's warm or hot. It's going to be a T. So A, very, very, very cold and dry. P is cold, and T is warm to hot. All right, so combining them all together. So look at this. You've got the lowercase c and a capital P. So that's continental, polar, which means continent is dry, polar is cold. MT. M, remember if you flip it over, it looks like water. M is maritime. T is tropical. So water is wet. T is warm or hot, wet and warm. C, continental. T, tropical. C is dry. T is hot. M is water, maritime. P is polar. So M, maritime, wet. P, polar, cold. And then CA, continental. That C is continental, A, Arctic, very, very cold and dry. North American air mass are a combination of temperature and moisture conditions. So we're looking in the North America, not South America, just North America for right now. Some of these air masses and others not mentioned create fronts. We'll get to that tomorrow. Fronts bring changing weather conditions and headaches to some of us. All right, so this last one, I'm going to look at this and we're going to locate air mass source regions. Place them, each air mass in the appropriate bubble. Place the arrows that indicate tracks paths that these air masses usually follow. So looking at this is over water, so you know it's going to be a lowercase m. And it is in the upper regions, not all the way up top. So this has to be polar. M, capital P. Well, what about this area right here? Well, it's over land. And it's still upper, so it's going to be lowercase c, uppercase p. Oh, sorry, went too high. Up here, again, over land, and you know is right near the Arctic, so C, capital A. This is C, lowercase c, uppercase p, because it's over the continent, and it is in the higher latitudes. All right, let's look down here. This is wet and near the equator, so wet and warm, M, capital T. Well, this is still down lower, but it's over the continent, so it's going to be CT. This is over the Gulf, which counts as water, so this is going to be maritime. Again, we're still low, so maritime, tropical. And this, again, over the ocean, warm, maritime, tropical. Last but not least, we're over some water. It's coming in from the higher latitudes. That is maritime, polar. All right, so that's it for today. If you have any questions, please get on Zoom, class tag, or email me for help. I'm here if you need me. And don't forget, using your reference table is very, very helpful, especially in the activity, because on page, sorry, I lost it. On page, you could either use page 4 or page 5 to help you locate places for your activity where to determine if it is tropical or polar. All right. Hope you guys have a great day.